let's go to space. Let's go to space data centers. Our first guest of the show is Philip from Starcloud. Burning up the timeline. Philip, how are you doing? Good to see you.
The current thing himself.
The current thing himself. Did this all kick off with NVIDIA posting about you? Was that when the kerfuffle began?
I think that was the catalyst, yeah.
Okay, so
thanks so much for having me on, by the way. I've been a huge fan since day one. So
I am glad to have you. This is why the show exists. We address every timeline that is in turmoil. So break it down for me. When did you start the company? What's the pitch? And then we'll go into some of the
why are the haters wrong?
Yeah. But just give me the recent backstory.
Yeah, so we started about a year and a half ago, at the beginning of last year. We basically in that time built a satellite. We've got the first launch coming up in a week, and that's why NVIDIA just posted their first thing, because we're going to be launching the first H100 to space, so about 100 times more powerful GPU compute than has been in space before.
Okay.
And yeah, that's the sort of brief history.
Okay.
What were you doing before this?
So I started my career as an engineer for 5 years, studied applied math and theoretical physics undergrad and masters, and then I spent a few years at McKinsey working with the space agencies of the UAE and Saudi government. And then I founded and sold another company not related to this, and then moved my way into this.
Here you are.
Harvard, Wharton, Columbia. He's been to every academic institution.
Collecting them all. What is the strategy for this first launch, this first satellite? What are you trying to figure out with this launch? Yep. What is the value of putting this H100 into space, and then kind of how do you think about the timeline? Because I think I would say overarching criticism of data centers in space has been people. I don't think people generally believe that this will never happen. It's more of a debate around the timeline on which it happens.
Yeah. Which is it's a fair debate to have, I think. So the first satellite, the reason we're launching this, lots of people believe that you can't run terrestrial data center grade GPUs in space because of high radiation environment, and you need to dissipate the heat in a vacuum. So this is really a demonstrator. It's a 60 kilogram small sat. It's launching on a Falcon 9, a quarter plate there. And so we'll be running high-powered, we'll do a whole bunch of firsts. We'll be the first to run high-powered inference in space on imagery from working with various DoD customers. We'll announce that soon. We'll be the first to train a model in space. We're training Mini GPT from Carpathy. We'll be the first to do, we're running a version of Gemini called Gemma, which is a cut-down version, working with Google Cloud on that. So we'll do some fun demos. For example, you can SSH into it and then just ask it things like, where are you now and how does it feel to be a satellite? And it will give you a kind of coherent answer. But yeah, this is really a demo. The next satellite launching in October next year is 10 times the power. We'll have by far the largest commercial radiator in space, a 30-meter wingspan solar panel, and then we'll have very, very sophisticated optical and connectivity options on there. So customers, including DoD and other satellites, will be able to send us raw imagery. We process it on the edge, and then we just downlink the insight, and that's the roadmap.
How far are you? There's a launch that's happening very soon, and then there's the renders, which are it looks like sci-fi Star Wars. There's 25 shipping containers that are descending. What's the delta there, and what was the decision between kind of showing more of a vision document? Because I think that's what triggered a lot of people, was you were showing an amount of mass in orbit that feels beyond the ISS. It looks huge. Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah, no. To be fair, it's extremely difficult to imagine what's about to come down the line with Starship. So the launch cost might come down by between 10 and 100x. Launch capacity is set to go up by 1,000x or more. And the reason is, if you build a new Starship every day for a year, which is a very conservative estimate for what they're trying to do, at the end of the year, you have 365 Starships. It has 5 times the payload capacity. You can launch 10 times as frequently. So we're really talking about 1,000 times more tonnage per year that we can get to space. So, and that's coming 3 to 5 years, which is really not that far away. So the idea of the render, you can launch the whole ISS in 2 Starship launches. So the render is to show, look, there is going to be a lot more mass in space. But yeah,
I almost feel you should have done the Anduril thing where it's anime if it's sci-fi where the vision's going, and then it's render for what you're actually sending. Because the render that I saw of the multiple shipping containers putting together, that's not what's actually launching next week. So I think that's where a lot of the cognitive dissonance is coming from, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you'll iterate
recently,
all this. It's fine.
Yeah. I recently saw Palmer talking about that, and I was like, man, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. It's nice to have, because there is a value for like the vision document. Like, where do you want to go in 10 years?
Yeah.
But it just hits different when it's like the official NVIDIA account is sharing this render, and it's like, okay, like that feels like it's happening soon.
It's not like they don't do their research. Like they have a whole team of like PhDs that go and look at this shit, and like they have a board that approves that this can get shown, that it's like feasibly possible.
Yes,
but yeah.
I don't think it's a science problem.
I guess
I think
talk
it's a
about
PR problem.
This first launch is meant to be like a demo, basically. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but effectively a science project to start to show capabilities in space, to start to prove that you guys can actually put GPUs in space that can run workloads. Like, what is the actual timeline? So, and then it sounds like maybe defense is like an early place where there might be some commercial applications. But then what's your timeline on when, if or when, I would be, prompting a model like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, and
it's like open running. It's just like it's just cheaper to do it in space, because that's the long-term vision, right? Is like it's just cheaper. Yeah. It's not anything special or like, oh, we need to be there for some geopolitical or defense reasons. It's just like the energy is free and the heat dissipation is free, so it's just cheaper. So that's where you go, even though the launch costs are expensive.
Yes, yeah. So maybe I'll start with the second part. So when will it be cheaper? That's coming with Starship, and so we're looking at the first commercial launches of Starship in 18 months. But we're probably going to be seeing, mass volume production of Starship on a 3 to 5 year time frame. So the roadmap is next year in October we're launching our second satellite. That's the one is about 10 times the compute of the first one, but much more capable in terms of continuous power generation and solar panels. That one is the first commercial service that will produce more cash than it costs to design, build, and launch. I mean, that satellite pays for itself just on hosted payloads, because that satellite has such high throughput and processing capabilities. There's a whole bunch of people that just want to stick sensors on that. It's not the end state business model, but that's a nice revenue stream in the meantime. Then we're launching a satellite after that, which will be, I can't talk too much about it, but you can see this PEZ dispenser form factor that's coming out of Starship. Yeah, I probably shouldn't say too much.
And that was successfully tested on the last Starship launch, right? Where there was a whole bunch of like debris blowing around. It was a crazy launch, but it did come back. It landed, and the PEZ dispenser thing shot out the fake Starlink, or like the dummy Starlink. Yeah,
exactly. Right? So that's about a 4-ton, at least 100 kilowatt satellite.
Yeah.
Second one's 10 kilowatts. First one's 1 kilowatt. So we're like going up an order of magnitude each time. Okay. That one could feasibly launch end of 2027. And then from there, we basically will launch lots of small versions lots of continuous versions of that, because that will have very low launch cost. Yep. And it will be a while before we start launching the full Starship payload base size. I mean, for one, we need this clamshell door to be ready before we can do that. But to be frank, it's quite a while until we start docking things in space. The only reason you would dock things in space, like in the concept video, is if you want to train a large model, because then you need the whole data center to be internally networked. And so that we're probably looking at, early 2030s before we start docking.
I mean, I don't have a problem with thinking in decades like that. That's like what we say in tech we want people to do. And so I don't think there's any problem with saying like, there's some crazy stuff that needs to happen with launch costs, and like it's going to take a while until this really works out. Like that's actually exactly what people want from technology founders, ideally. I guess there is the question of like, how do you frame it as like how you don't want people to think.
If you just needed to generate a lot of revenue quickly in space, you could do the first space casino where people could beam up, tap into it, all ages.
People that hit me up.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean,
space token. You got to mine it in space. How do you think about some of the I think we'd asked Dylan Patel at one point about GPUs in space, and I don't think he mentioned like the challenges around heat and heat dissipation, but he was talking about how sometimes you just need to like unplug the server and plug it back in again, or switch out individual GPUs, but like, what's the solve on that long term? Are you thinking about, these being like fully robotic systems that allow you to make changes on the fly? Like, what's the solution there?
Yeah, I think probably 2 points on that. I mean, the first is for these massive data centers where you've got like, a kilometer long or a mile long row of racks. When so the people I speak to now are saying, look, if an H100 breaks in that, you just leave it in there. Nobody's going down there and unplugging and putting that back in there, just writing software around it, and they'll just leave it basically. So that's number one. But secondly, for the first few iterations of the satellite, it'll be exactly like Starlink in that we won't be able to touch it. And so we'll have to have redundancy on the critical systems, and then we over provision things like solar panels and radiators, which degrade over time. Over time, the whole industry space industry in general is moving towards robotic maintenance, but also terrestrial data center industry is moving towards robotic maintenance. And that's where on a sort of 5-year time frame, some of the people we speak to in data centers are saying we are fully expecting data centers to be maintained by humanoid robots in a 5-year time frame. And, this is where it starts to sound a little bit wacky and sci-fi, but humanoid robots do not require too much modification to work in space, in the sense that a human spacesuit would take care of radiation and thermals. You would need to retrain it slightly, but that's maybe sounds a little bit wacky. But robotic.
Well, it doesn't have to be a humanoid, right? Like there's a bunch of other form factors.
It could be any form factor, but humanoids will be mass produced, so probably the cheapest.
It's interesting.
I want you to react to Andrew McCallop's viral post. It got 7,000 likes, breaking down a bunch of different things. The core claims I see in here are questions about what if demand for payload to orbit doesn't decline. He does talk about the difficulties of heat dissipation. He says, you just finished watching a Scott Manley video on radiative heat transfer, and now you think you're going to disrupt AWS with a few solar panels and a rideshare slot. You're going to believe that up until the next month when you crack open DeWitt. And he goes into a lot of the technical level. But I was wondering if there were any key points in here that you think were easily debunked from actually being in the trenches. Obviously he's he does work in space and does something somewhat similar and does seem like an expert who'd be equipped to know this stuff. But you've obviously focused on this case specifically. So what was your reaction when you saw his sort of comedic breakdown?
Yeah, I mean, I like the post, and I mean, I'm a fan of Andrew. I've been following his stuff, and he's a great engineer. Same with Delian, by the way. Very impressive what they're doing with Vara.
Yeah, totally.
So I mean, on the thermals, the criticism usually is in order to dissipate that heat, you need a large surface area, and they think for some reason that's super impractical. I mean, my co-founder Ezra has a PhD in engineering, spent 10 years designing and building large deployable structures, solar panels and radiators, and I mean, you just have to build a large surface area, and that's what we're doing. So half our engineering team is building a very large, low-cost and low-mass deployable radiator. So that is the core IP of our company, is that. So that's number one. On the launch cost side of things, so sometimes people say if there's no competitor to Starship, which it doesn't look like there'll be for at least 5 years, then will there be any incentive for for SpaceX to drop the pricing?
Yep.
Now, I have a bit of a different opinion than most people. Most people say, well, no, they'll just keep it high. I don't think so. And it's the same reason that they keep the Tesla is sold at under the price. They could potentially sell Tesla at a higher price, but in order to reach a much larger market, you need to sell at a lower price. So, for example, they're going to have all of these Starships sitting there. They can only launch them once every 2 years to Mars. Their marginal cost of launch on each Starship is $2 or $3 million. Yep. Now, either they can leave it there because there's no demand at the $200 million for a launch price, or they can say to people like us, hey, you can launch it for $20 or $30 million. They still make shitloads of money. That's still very profitable for us. And so it's like a win-win. So my expectation is that actually the launch price will come down even if they don't have a huge number of competitors.
Yeah, like the elasticity of demand there. Like they might just be able to sell more volume at lower prices, so they might wind up lowering the cost, or kind of giving you like a bulk discount if you want to put it in that terms. Interesting. On the heat dissipation question, how much do you think that is in the domain of science, and we need to have a breakthrough discovery? You need to discover the solution to that problem versus an engineering problem where maybe it just comes down to, can you manufacture something that is already follows the laws of physics and all the physicists agree it works if you can just build it profitably?
Yeah, I mean, it's from what we're seeing, it's very much an engineering challenge. It's really like a manufacturing. So we know that it works because the International Space Station has a radiator that dissipates 70 kilowatts. The problem is it's ridiculously expensive. Sure. So our radiator on our second satellite is 10 times lower mass per watt of dissipation and 100 times lower price per watt of dissipation than the radiator on the International Space Station. That's the whole game, is making this radiator cheap and light. And yeah, we've got some very innovative or very unusual manufacturing techniques that we are working on, basically.
Fun.
You posted a few days ago, people don't understand Starlink is going to just be the internet. Direct to cell is going to hit hard. Basically, all telco is doomed. Let's check in this time next year. Expand on that.
That was at 1 a.m. and I had a very heated argument with somebody. Like, I was in the cab and I was like, I'm just going to post this. And then like 300,000 views later, I was like, okay, this was probably like a little bit too extreme.
Too aggressive.
Well, no, obviously if you want to get attention on X, just say the most inflammatory thing possible. Say that, all
Normally
these multi-hundred.
Yeah.
No, but what's your view on how quickly, we saw news on Apple exploring something with Starlink on direct to cell.
Yeah.
Seems like every major manufacturer is going to be interested in this. And then there's also that other company that's like a competitor, right? That what is it? That is Verizon propping them up. They don't have any satellites.
ASTS.
ASTS.
Yeah. No, I don't think they have any hope in hell. And the reason they don't is because, sorry. I know there's a whole bunch of people that get it.
They have a retail army.
The retail traders?
The retail traders are going to come for you, dude. Good luck.
What do you know about space?
Well, you got the private markets.
They're doing fine.
You got the private markets Varda guys coming for you. Now you got the retail traders at ASTS coming for you. You got no friends in this foxhole, dude. You got to get out of here.
ASTS is up 7% just today.
Oh,
so
that's so good.
That's
amazing.
So,
well, no, I mean, okay, I want them to succeed, and I'm like,
okay. Well, in that case, I reverse my entire position. 7% move. Let's go. That's very funny. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a launch cost thing. It's a launch cost thing.
Sure.
They can't compete with Starlink on the launch cost. So yeah.
Yeah.
That argument can be leveled against us, by the way, as well. So
yeah.
Well, so on what are the telco companies gonna do, because they're multi-$100 billion companies? They're not just gonna roll over. How do you see them kind of reacting?
I mean, it feels like there's lots of multi-$100 billion companies that just get backed into a corner and die. I mean, Blockbuster was a $100 billion company.
You are such a space maxi.
I guess
you might be right over it just depends on the time frame, but it just doesn't seem like internet backhaul is not going to move to Starlink in the next 5 years. This is not going to happen.
There'll be undersea cables for sure. There'll be undersea cables.
Yeah.
But the thing people are underappreciating is the amount of capacity they can launch per Starship is absolutely mind blowing, and that is coming in 18 months. So. Yeah. And that's proper hardcore, very high bandwidth direct to cell in buildings. And that's what people don't appreciate. In buildings.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, I love a Starlink.
I guess
generally.
The telecom companies could end up being like Starlink resellers.
Yeah.
Right? Is that one scenario?
I mean, they could be. Yeah.
Doesn't sound like the best business to be in, but
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for hopping on and defending your honor. I think you did a great job defending your honor. I think you're thinking in decades. I'm excited for you to continue working on this.
How you're in the Washington area, right?
Yes.
Washington State. How's what's the scene like in Redmond before you go? Good. How's the energy?
I mean, there's a lot of. It's where Kuiper and Starlink are. So all of the people, I think 95% of satellites launched in the last 2 years were designed and built in Redmond. So there's a lot of space talent up there. But it's not the liveliest of cities in the world. But
well, you guys have work to do. So thank you so much for joining. Fun conversation, and we're rooting for you.
I really appreciate it.
We'll talk to you soon.